today we'll be explaining about the agenda for the forthcoming days and what we'll be learning in today's session too. So yeah, we'll proceed. So the training session is to be conducted for 5 days. We started with yesterday, and we started with the basics of design thinking, and we got to know about each other. And today's session we'll be having a brief discussion about all the phases that, as Ashwin explained in yesterday's conclusion, and we'll see some videos too to understand what those phases are. And tomorrow we'll get into the action and see one example, or we'll get to know about the design thinking process, and we'll work together to come up with a solution for one particular problem statement. On day 4 and day 5, you educators and us will be working together. Will be helping you to come up with a student kit, that is a framework. You will be creating a process flow for your students. So that will be the activity for day 4 and day 5. So you guys please take notes in between in today's session as well as tomorrow's session, so that it'll be easier for you guys on day 4 and day 5. Yeah, you guys can interrupt in between too, or as Ramyaka said, use those emojis to stop us and clarify your doubts. Yeah. And one more thing, we'll be addressing each and every one of us here as educators. So yeah, and before we jump into today's session, we'll have a look on the yesterday's session, and then we'll proceed. So we'll play a video for you guys. Please watch it carefully. Namrata, 1 second.
Just a minute.
Okay. Okay, guys. Until then, we'll have this, small mantra session as we had yesterday. So the mantra session is going to be about the 5 phases. So you guys can unmute yourself and repeat those 5 phases with us. So I'll tell the phases one by one, and you guys can repeat it. So yeah, please unmute yourself for a while. So the first phase is going to be ideation. Educators. You guys, Namrata, you can hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, Shruti, you're audible.
Okay, educators, like let's start a
Okay,
day
guys.
with
Okay.
shall I talk, Shruti?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, sure,
Okay.
go on.
So like before getting into today's session, I want everybody to like register this mantra like as we did yesterday. So I want everybody to unmute yourself and just repeat after me. Okay, everybody here, whomever is in the meeting, I request you all to unmute your mic. Okay, fine. So like I guess let's start. I am a designer.
I am a designer.
Embrace your beginner's mind.
Embrace your
beginner's mind.
Stepping out of your zone
Stepping out of your zone
of comfort is equal to learning.
Of comfort is equal to learning.
Comfort is equal to learning.
Problems are just opportunities
Problems are just
Problems
opportunities
are just opportunities
for design in disguise.
for
For
design in
for
disguise.
designing
Oh,
disguise.
okay, fine. Thank you so much. So with this, like, let's get into the session now. So I guess I refreshed a little bit. So always remember for this 5 days, we are gonna start a day with this mantras. So I hope everybody is like now by hearted the mantras. So it's very simple and neat. So whenever you feel bored of the session, just think of this and just say it in your mind, so that it might give you the boost of like concentrating the session, and so that we'll be achieving whatever we are up to here. So thank you so much. So Namrata, like you can start the session.
So let's watch a video.
Namrata, the video is not audible.
Video is not audible. Just a minute.
Refer to it as and methods. In this first short video, I just want to talk about design thinking in broad terms. And here in the Interactive Media and Communications program, we actually refer to it as design thinking and doing. The doing part is pretty critical. We're not just thinking, but we're actually actively integrating all kinds of methods and processes to create innovative products, whether it's websites, mobile applications, or physical products, books, magazines, whatever it is that we're researching or producing in our coursework. So, to give you a quick overview, design thinking is a new term for actually old process, decades old processes that designers have used in the creation of the visual and product world that we see around us. It's a great way of encapsulating the many different things that we do to create and innovate. The primary concern is that it's human-centered. We are designing for humans. We are designing services, banking services, airport services, any sorts of human services. We are designing products, whether it's the latest gadget that you just have to have, or whether it's a website or a mobile application. We are designing products for humans to use. So
Okay, educators, that was the overview for yesterday's session, and let me brief about it again. So what is design? As we were talking about, design is some which we give to an object, that has an use, that has a purpose. It is kind of a framework we follow in order to use that object. And coming to design thinking, what is design thinking? To put it in simple words, design thinking helps to bring our creativity, improves our creativity, and it is a general intentional framework that we can follow in order to arrive at different set of solutions for a particular problem. So that was about design thinking. And the next one was the way of thinking. Design thinking helps to change our way of thinking. That is what the this 5-day session is about. How to change our way of thinking using design thinking process. And lastly, we saw about design process, the 5 stages of phases of design process, and we'll be seeing in detail about the design process in today's session. And those phases are, the discovery phase, interpretation phase, ideation phase, experimentation phase, and evolution phase. So those are the 5 phases of design thinking process. And let us start with discovery process.
So, am I audible, Shruti?
Yeah, you are audible.
So, what exactly discovery phase is? Discovery is going to be the basic foundation for everything, whether it be any process. Let's take lots of examples as well. So, discovery, when it comes to discovery, it will be the basic foundation. So why am I telling it as the basic foundation is, this is where we are going to identify the challenge. Whatever challenge we are, whatever the problem is, whatever the problem we are facing currently, that is going to be something very, it is going to be a very challenging one for us. So this is where we'll identify each and every aspects of the current situation that we are in. So let's watch a small video where she will explain everything about research oriented uh, discovery.
The first step that we're going to talk about in the design thinking process is empathize. And this is where we get to know the humans that we're designing for. And it sounds kind of simple, but it's not. Understanding the feelings, the needs, and the pain points of the people that we are working with or designing for is actually trickier, but critical to the design of robust and functional products. There are a couple of things that I want to start out with saying, even though the word is empathize, what we're really talking about here is the research and collection of qualitative and quantitative data. Quantitative data is how many times does someone click on something, or eye tracking movements. Those would be mathematical or quantitative data points. Qualitative data is incorporating a lot of the visual observational research methods. We're trying to identify the feelings and needs of the humans we're designing for, and we're trying to determine problems or pain points in the delivery of our products and services. Now, before we begin, we have to identify and focus on dropping our assumptions, judgments, and biases. If we're designing for a population that's 80 years old, then we have some unconscious or subconscious biases, judgments about what an 80-year-old person, their physical parameters are. So we need to figure out that we can put them aside, because in a pure collection, research, data collection frame of mind.
So yes, just a second. So what exactly she told there in the video was empathizing. So when it comes to discovery, this is one of the most important step which will take us further to the next level. So what exactly is empathizing or empathy? Empathy is feeling or standing in someone's foot, feeling the same way a person is feeling. So coming to the point, discovery. this is going to be the most basic step where we are going to empathize each and everyone as it is a human centric design. And here we should also have confidence and to move further. So, understanding the challenge. So, this is the first step. Whatever the problem is, whatever the situation is, we should understand what type of problem we are currently dealing with, and how to, we should also listen to others as well. We should not avoid the other person, the points that the other person next to us or around us, whatever they are giving, we have to take it into account. So everything is kind of an understanding. So to deal with a challenge, it is definitely difficult to deal with some sort of problem, and we cannot come to a solution in a very short period of time. But still, we have to listen and we have to observe. So that is the main point. And to the next, preparing lots of research. So this research oriented work will bring us at many opportunities as well. So after collecting loads of, maybe we can also document our statements, findings, and much more that are related to the solution problem. And we should conduct several surveys here in this step of the discovery phase. And these surveys can be, as educators, we can collect surveys, we can get inputs from our dear students as well. Because we are finding, we are framing solutions for them and for ourselves as. Next, gathering inspiration. From the collected, we have identified the problem and we have got a better aspect of it, and our way of thinking has been changed. And in this process, we'll be gathering information and inspirations. So when it comes to inspos, we'll search the internet. We'll look for. We'll simply type a problem, or we'll type our words or keywords. We'll use many statements to find the answers for that. So that becomes one of the most important thing, and this will definitely be a promising one if we take this into account and if we do it. So as a whole, what I'm trying to tell in the discovery phase is we should keep on observing and we should keep on listening, and we should come up with a solid content where we'll take it to the next level, to the interpretation phase, which will be proceeded further by Shruti.
Okay, so I hope you guys understood what discovery phase is about. So let us go into the interpretation phase. As Namrata said, in the discovery phase, we'll be observing things and collecting information from various sources. So, and in interpretation phase, we'll be using those information, whatever we collected in discovery phase, to gain insights from those. What do I mean by insight is that we'll be retrieving actual information that we need from all those things we have observed. So you can observe your surrounding and whatever is needed by many ways, like using field visits, or by having a simple conversation, etc., etc. So but what actually is difficult is that in order to gain important insights from those information we have collected, and then use them as inspiration for our actual problem statement. While we go deep into this process, it might actually seem confusing, but this is the phase that actually helps to arrive at the actual important problem from our statement. We can use various examples to do so, and we'll go deep into this process by having a look at this video here.
The second step in the design thinking process is called design. If it was the scientific process, we could call it hypothesize, and some people use that term instead of define. But basically what we're talking about here is problem definition, defining the problem. Now, a lot of times people will come in assuming they know what the problem is. So what you want to do is try and make time and space for that problem to be developed, refined, reframed until you get at what the actual problem is that needs to be solved. So what we do is we take our data from the empathize step and we unpack it, we synthesize what we've learned in that process, we look for insights, and we look for needs. So we put the data that we've collected, and we might find out at this stage that we need more data. And that's why I say it's not linear. It's not necessarily step by step. It might be continuing data as you're defining the problem. Now this is the problem definition stage is probably the most ambiguous and tricky to describe because you're kind of floating in a sea of unknowing. So you have to embrace ambiguity. It is ambiguous. We think we know what the problem is, but we might not. And our user data, our user research might prove that our problem is something entirely different than we thought. So we have to embrace ambiguity, uncertainty, and we have to make the time and the space to let this problem definition brew or cook.
So yeah, let me brief about what we just saw in the video. The video was about how to gather the required information from all our observations. It is all about gaining the right insights and the and whatever that we need, and coming up with the actual problem statement. As stated in the video, we'll have various ambiguities and problems and confusions while we are proceeding with our observations. But at the end of the phase, we'll be able to arrive at the actual problem statement. So how to proceed with this phase is that firstly we'll be capturing our learnings, meaning that we'll actually be overwhelmed with all the information we have gained from our environment. So before proceeding with any other works, we'll have to sit and uh, uh, use at least few minutes to understand what we have observed, and spread it apart. We'll have to find space and time in order to share our thoughts on our observations and what we feel about those observations. So finding space and time is an important step to start with in interpretation. And then we'll have to share our impressions with others, our teammates. Whatever we observe, whatever insights we have gained, we'll have to share about it in the form of stories or any other things, and come up with top most important topics. So how to arrive at the most important topics is that we can have the personal details of the persons we met during our observation. We can come up with the motivations. Why did that participant took part in our observation, and what he cares about the most, and what bothers us in those observations, and few other question and answer sessions. So that is what is about sharing our impressions. And then followed by that, documenting our thoughts. It is really important to document whatever we understood in the previous steps. So documentation actually helps us till the end of our process. So we started with capturing our learning, finding space and time to and then we now that we have documented whatever we observed, now it is time to dig deep into our observations. As in previous steps, we'll have to set up a separate space, plan everything in order. Say we'll have a storytelling session, or we'll use sticky notes. We'll use posters to understand in depth. We'll then take turns to share our thoughts. Each and every one of us in our team must put in their own thoughts and discuss everything like it's a collaboration. And then at the end we'll have this storytelling session where each and every person will tell about their experience, their findings, and their insights. So this will help in one way when the others are sharing their thoughts. They'll be able to the team will be able to come up with a collaborated problem statement. This can be done by capturing the important information in small pieces and then collaborating them and coming up with the important stuff. And then searching about the themes is one important thing. Whatever we observed and grouped together, we'll have to find a theme from those clusters. So that is what is called as clustering related information. From those clusters, the clusters contain similar thoughts. We'll have to come up with one main headline, and then that headline will be used further. So the next would be to make sense of that headline, that is make sense of that particular finding. So why do we need to have clusters and why do we need to have headings is that it helps to have links between those themes and come up with an integrated problem statement. So that is what is the most important thing about interpretation. We'll split our observations into clusters. We'll have headlines, and then we'll try to group them and then come up with one particular problem statement. This can be done in many ways. And one important thing, as I said before, is the documentation step. So you will be surprised to find yourself at one important problem, that one important headline related to that challenge. So let us have an example to understand whatever we went through this. Yeah. So there was this team of educators from Blue Valley Center for Advanced Professional Studies in Overland. So they were publicizing their newly built programs in their building. So actually, the team which was responsible for publicizing went out, connected with people from local schools, universities, etc., and then they were proceeding in the usual way. But while doing so, they found out that the parents are the actual gatekeepers of student time. So what they did is they redesigned their promotion, that their publicizing ways, and they came up with this particular frame wherein they concentrated on their parents. They arranged tours and special sessions for the parents to understand about the programs conducted there. So, and surprisingly, they saw around 42% rise in the number of participants at the end of the registration. So yeah, that so what I'm trying to tell from this example is that since they observed what is happening in the environment, in the community, they came up with a rephrased idea in order to increase their publicizing level. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. And followed by that, so how to frame opportunities. So framing opportunities can be done using two methods. We can either create a visual reminder using illustrations, diagrams, frameworks, etc., or we can experiment with other visualizations, like we can express our learnings through storyboards and stuff. And here are a few examples on how to visualize our findings. First and foremost is journey map. So in journey map, what we do is that we'll map people's moods, experiences, and needs, etc. And in Venn diagram is actually used to represent relationship between all the themes that we found out in interpretation stage, and followed by that 2 by 2s. This graph here is called as 2 by 2s, and this helps to emphasize tensions and create different categories. And lastly, maps help to visually explain relationships among different clusters. So yeah, uh, and in at the end of this interpretation phase, what I would like to stress is that we should come up with more of how might we questions. That is, how might we proceed with this statement? What will happen? What if I do this? What if I proceed with this? So this helps to brainstorm more and more questions. And at the end of the phase, you will be arriving at one important challenge. So that is the actual purpose of this interpretation phase. And ideation phase will be explained by our chalk member Ashwin.
So hello guys, welcome. Hello educators, sorry. So welcoming you all. It's like I know it's like too much of information is going on. So like with our, we have many fun elements today planned also. So after this, and there is a fun activity to go around. So this is the very important third stage in design thinking process. So far we have come across discovery and interpretation. So in discovery we just saw to how to emphasize the problem, like we are just thinking, we are just start thinking of something. And interpretation, we just process what we thought, like we are just deeply analyzing it, and we are just deeply processing the things. In ideation, the process is going to be very simple. So like the first two stages are little tough, but when you come on to the ideation process, in this process, here we are allowed to like go beyond our limits. It's like more or less we can just generate lots and lots of ideas. So here we are going to find the solution for the problem which we finalized in the previous step, that is in interpretation. So ideation means generating lots of ideas. So so how we are going to generate idea? So we all know brainstorming. What is brainstorming? So here what we are going to like we are going to take up the problem statement, and we are going to brainstorm numerous ideas here. So we are going to collect the ideas, and not only ideas, even the opinions, even the thoughts what we have, like how we discuss like collaborative thinking. So the process is going to be similar to here. So like we are going to just collect the ideas, and what are we going to do is that we are going to think something related to that. It might be in and and but process, like எப்படி சொல்ற in Tamil, however we can say like இது இல்லனா இதுவா இருக்குமோ. So it is like might or not, that process, maybe or maybe not. So it may be in that process. So for example, if you consider wearing a shoe, like I can't able to wear a shoe. So you might think, what is the issue behind it? Like if so far you've just finalized the problem, might be the sitting posture. So like you didn't sit properly to wear a shoe. So how will you figure it out? We are in that stage now. So we can just give him a possibility of he can sit in a chair and just put the shoes properly, or he can just loosen the lace portion so that his feet goes in very swiftly inside it, and he can just clean up the shoes, because sometimes the mud inside the shoes might also just block him putting or like comforting his legs inside the shoes properly. So there are many reasons. So whatever I'm saying is the ideas. So it is the possibility. So we're just going to give the number of possibilities that this might also be happen, and this may also be a reason to happen, and he can also correct in these many ways. So there are numerous possible ideas to just solve a solution. So it is not like that we are going to stuck in a particular issue. It is all how we think. So now we are going to see a video on ideation, and we'll just discuss further on.
The next step in the design thinking process is my personal favorite, ideate. Coming up with as many ideas or solutions to a problem as you possibly can. So let's talk about the different ways we approach ideation in the design thinking method. One, we want quantity. Two, we want a diversity of ideas or solutions, and it's all about generation, generating quantity and diversity. So we want to keep in mind in this process that it's quantity, not quality, that we're going for at first. We can determine quality later. The getting as many ideas out at the beginning is the critical part. And for that, we have to suspend judgment. And suspending judgment not only of our own ideas, but of other people's ideas, right? Just get them out on the table. In this process, you want to make sure that all the people that are collaborating and working in this process have a voice at the table. There are generally introverts in the room, and what you want to do is you want to come up with workshops or exercises within this process that helps them get their ideas and their voice on the table when they might not normally speak, and there's lots of great ways to do that. So you want to make sure that everybody is heard because everybody has ideas. Now, here's the critical point. The toughest point is that we want to focus on novelty over relevance in the ideation process. Now, you're probably thinking, well, if it's not relevant, what good will it do? From my experience in decades in the design industry, relevance is something that people do really, really well. You know, the relevant spreadsheet, the relevant, brochure, the relevant response to something. That's something that we operate out of constantly. It's the novelty that is difficult for most of us. And getting novel thinking, novel ideas out is the most important part. If we have novel ideas, and I always use the analogy of some of the products that Apple has created, who knew we needed the iPod, right? Who knew we needed the iPhone? Those were novel solutions, but were also relevant. And there's the sweet spot. I could do a whole talk just on novelty and relevance, but there's the sweet spot between novelty and relevance, and that's where we innovate. This we do really, really well. So in the ideation phase, we need to focus on novelty. Some of the ways, some of the methods and processes that we use in the ideation phase are mind maps, sketches, skits, storyboards, game storming. This is really great, and there's some great books out on this. Charrettes, where we actually bring in the users of our products to ideate with us. So this is just a few of the possible methods that we can use in this step of the process. But in a nutshell, this is ideation, and you always want to shoot for novelty first. No judgment, just novelty.
So yes, so I guess this video has given you some kind of idea of what I'm trying to convey. So they just explained the three process, that is quantity, generate, and Namrita, can you just go back 1 minute? Yeah, next. So they just explained the quantity, generate, and diversity. So here quantity refers to the you can just go to the next slide. Yeah. So here they have just defined it in the 3 steps, that is quantity, diversity, and generate. So here quantity defines the amount and the value of the possibility which you gave, the ideas which you generate, the quantity of the idea, that is it's not like the amount or weight, it's like the value, the worth of the idea, whether it's going to be the very precious one, like a very brilliant one, a long lasting one. So that is how it differs. So just talking on to the very first step in the ideation, we are just gonna brainstorm ideas. For this, definitely we need some preparation, right? So when it happens in an open atmosphere or in the classroom, so we are supposed to make ourselves comfortable. We are supposed to have the required elements, whatever is needed to brainstorm. So firstly, we just need a peaceful, like a peaceful background, a peaceful environment to think on. Secondly, we need some of our friends or family or like colleagues or the fellow mates to just discuss on our idea. So do you know when ideas generate? Whenever we just open up ourselves, it is not only in the positive notion, even in a negative way. When you're like totally fed up of something, when you just go on share your thoughts, definitely will crack something, the reason for your fed up, definitely. So then you just process it. Okay, if I am doing this in this way, I won't be getting fed up of doing this. So it is all that simple. So it is like when you take the scenario, it's like we can just go on with an example of doing an assignments. So everybody have crossed the stages by doing their assignments, homework in school days or colleges. Even in the office, we are just doing some assignments from work from home time. So whenever you're doing this, you at first will be everybody will be blunt of what is this, what are we supposed to do. We'll be like calling all the possible colleagues and friends, and even we'll be asking some fellow mates like our families help, like can you just help me with thinking or like that. But actually, you know what, it is us who's finalizing what we are supposed to do. We just ask others opinion, but we are the concerned person who's just generating the final idea. So we the everything starts from us. So it is like if you are doing assignments, you are gonna crack idea. So all we need is like talking. We are just supposed to share our thoughts. So whenever we share our thoughts, you are gonna generate enormous number of ideas to proceed further. So maybe the numbers may high. Maybe if you are just generating so many of possibilities for one single problem, that is totally fine. Don't just like, am I thinking too much? No, you are thinking it in a right, and you're just thinking in it in like in many perspectives. So this stage is like human centric design. So you're just thinking on with the other's perspective. That is what you're doing. So it is like very good to bring up many more ideas. So next is like, how are you going to initiate the thinking? So firstly, we are just start comforting each team members. So brainstorming doesn't happen with one single person. So it's going to happen in a group. It is a kind of group activity where as you've decided the problem statement, you're just going to share. You're just going to thought like you're going to discuss it with your fellow friend or your fellow participants or your fellow colleagues, whomever you are with, and you're going to discuss it, and you're just going to pour in all the thoughts, and it's going to be like you will be taking notes. So these are the points. So that is how this brainstorming is going to happen, and you're just going to do it in like yeah, furthermore, thinking can be made by like you can just make them play some game regarding the problem, and you can just tell them to talk for a minute for a two or like 2 minutes regarding the topic, so that like ideas might generate. It's not like if I'm now talking, definitely you guys are gonna have some ideas of what I'm gonna talk. So that is what I generating ideas about. So next, moving on. So with this, brainstorming is done, and we are just finally we just came up with many ideas. Moving on to next step in the ideation process is that finalizing our solution. So before going on to finalizing the solution, we are going to just do some refining of idea. So refining ideas is what is that? We're going to like as we got loads and loads of ideas, we are just taking a stop and we are just creating a checklist here. So why we are creating a checklist? Because first we are going to plan like why are we doing this and for whom we are doing this. So for whom you are doing this important step. As I was saying the example of like doing assignments, for whom you're doing the assignments. Is it for us? Is it for an institution? No, it's like it's for like developing us. So the totally we are just doing it for our self satisfaction, and we just try to give our 100% in whatever we do. So that you just collect opinions from all your classmates. They'll be like saying many ideas, at from that you will be cracking one and you will have one idea. So that is what refining. So you're just creating a checklist of like what and all the process are required, and for whom and all I'm going to do this, and for whom and all I'm going to share this. So you're just clearly sketching the steps and processes, and later what you're going to do is that you're just going to compare this both stages, both brainstorming and the checklist, and what you're going to arrive at is final solution. So the final solution is the final process in ideation. So here you're going to define the solution. You're just going to finalize the solution. Like we just had a problem in one hand, and now we are just finalizing the solution for the other end. So might be the problem be a simpler one, might be a one like a less valued one, but we have a problem. We are able to finalize a problem. That is what our motive is. So a design thinking for educators motive is that we want our students to analyze the problem. We want our students to rectify a problem. We want our students to go through something, and we want our students to face the problem and come out of it and give a best solution. So we want that, and we are trying to bring that to you. So for this we are just having some kind of medium. So you are the medium. So when we are just teaching you, you are going to like teach in the way you understand. So like we are generating ideas, by the way. So this is what ideation process is, and I hope I am very clear in ideation process. So we can just stop here for a second, and if you have any doubts, you can just drop in chat box, or you are feel free to open the mic and talk.
So yeah, so anyone having any doubt or anything, you can raise your hands here. So in reaction, you can see raise your hands feature there. There you can raise your hands.
So like anyone is having doubt regarding the three steps: discovery, interpretation, ideation process?
Yeah, guys, please feel free to
Yeah, feel free to talk, because how much ever doubts you're asking, like it will be very clear for you to progress for the next 3 days.
yeah. As educators, it is important to understand each and every step.
Vaishnavi, Varshini, Vanilla, like all can, like if you have any doubt, you can just ask, or you can also say that if you don't have doubts also, you can just post a comment.
I think one of our educators was trying to say something. Okay. Vaishnavi is having no doubts.
Varshini too. Okay, fine. So like so far the process is very, the session is going very good, I guess. So we are just now gonna take a little break from the session, and now we're gonna have a fun activity. So Shruti, would you like to explain?
Yeah, sure, Ashwin. Okay, educators. We have this activity called story narration. So what we'll be doing is that I'll be starting with one word in here, and we'll try to each one of us will try to come up with a story in reference to that particular word. So let me start with the word chalk. So as I've said, with this word chalk, each one of us are going to try and come up with a story.
So it may be a single line story, or like it may be a phrase or sentence. That is fine. So the whole concept of this is like you're gonna develop a story with a single word. So like as Shruti was saying, she started the story with chalk. So like you can just develop a story regarding it. I would like Shruti to start with a single sentence, so that it will be like an example for them.
Okay.
Yes.
So um, as I was trying to uh, teach the kids, I couldn't find any chalks. So I, went and borrowed it from the other class. And can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. Like
Okay.
all can hear Shruti. Like
Educators, please use
yes, Namrita,
that
you can just
thumbs
stop
up.
screen sharing so that it will be like let's all interact. I request everyone to turn video, or like educators can turn on the video.
Okay, sure.
Sure,
Sure.
Vaishnavi.
Sure, Vaishnavi, I'll repeat the thing once. The word was chalk, and I created this story as I was taking sessions for my kids. I was out of chalks, and I went to the neighboring class and I borrowed some chalks. Uh, she was kind enough to lend me some, and when I came back, I wanted to explain my kids that it is a kids the importance of sharing. So that is my short story about chalk. I
So
hope that was good enough.
yes, that was like a good start. So from that, next person can develop a story, or you can just say some other story related to the word chalk. It's gonna be like we are just developing a story. So I guess Shruti stopped with an idea, the concept of she wanted to say something. So like she wanted to express it through writing. So while she was searching for chalk, she couldn't find it. So she gave an inspiring story in 4 to 5 lines. So I want others to say something, or like you can just add up something to that point.
Educators, you can either tell us or use the chat box to continue the story,
Yes.
whichever is convenient.
Shall I continue the story?
Yes.
Yeah, sure, Kavya, sure.
Yeah. Shruti, you were saying that you borrowed chalk piece and started writing on the board, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. As
Yeah,
Shruti started writing, there were many colorful chalk pieces, blue, green, yellow, and she started writing on the board using colorful chalk pieces. And the children were happy to see the colors on the board, and they wanted to draw something and put colors in the paper also. So they all took their drawing book and started painting. Started coloring in their drawing book.
Okay, that was really cool. Like we had a great
yeah.
transition from a plain colorless talk to the colors. So that was very one nice. Thank you so much. And who would like to add some other point on the phrase? Like from starting from borrowing chalk piece, we ended up in borrowing color chalk piece. So like who else wanted to say something on this? Vaishnavi, you can also say. As they started
Okay,
coloring, I was
Vaishnavi
wondering how
says,
to grab their attention back to the class. Okay, that is very nice. So what did you do to grab their
okay.
attention? Like if you are in that state, what will you do to grab the attention, Vaishnavi?
Okay, I would like to add.
Yeah.
Okay, so class teacher was actually using color chalk piece to write her class notes on the board as students were copying. So she was walking around the classroom to check on the notebooks, and suddenly she looked into a boy's notebook, and it had blanks in the paragraphs of what he has written. And she was shocked, like, why did you miss out the words in between? Then he told, no, ma'am, these are the only words I can see from the board. Then she was so surprised, I have written the entire board, and why can't you copy it or do the proper class work? Then he told, no, I can't see anything. I can see only the words which I have written in my classroom, like class note. Then only she came to understanding that, okay, this boy is having difficulty to perceive the colors in the board because he is having some color blindness or something. So she has to stick on to white color chalk piece to make sure that he sees everything, whatever she writes. Something I would
Okay.
like to add a
Yes, that
point
is
on
very
inclusiveness.
nice
Yeah.
actually. We are like having like a graph of like going. Very nice. So Vashni has added something. So I have also started drawing what I have to explain in the form of drawing. Once the students settled, I explained them with picture I drew. Okay, like you, it is very nice.
Yeah.
There is a transition in story, so like it was very, very nice. Like Shruti, yeah.
So yeah, as I could see, there were many branches for our stories from each one of us. So what I would like to conclude from this story is that we started with the concept of sharing, and then we went on into how to gain back the concentration of students, and then with Vaishnavi's story, we could see that we could see how to make the students understand the concepts while using pictures. And as Kavya said, I hope it was Kavya, she stressed the importance of helping all the children, even the children with color blindness, to help learn and treat them equally as like others. So I guess that was our short story. We started with chalk, and we came up with four good topics.
So it's like also
It's
we have
really
to
nice
notice
that
that.
you guys pitched in your ideas.
So it's also like I wanted to add up something. Like it's also very nice to see like you guys are like start thinking. So which is we want. So this
Yeah.
activity is all about thinking. So we just gave you a word chalk, but we ended up in like drawing, adding colors to it, and we also even diagnosed a problem like color blindness. Like how our one of the educators Jeevadarni said like adding she came the concerned class teacher came to know about that. So that is what the activity is about. So like I hope that one was really fun. So like moving on swiftly to next step is experimentation. So far we just went on with four or three: discovery, interpretation, and ideation. So in discovery we are just emphasizing, in interpretation we are just deeply analyzing the problem, and in ideation we are just cracking a solution. And in the fourth step, what we are going to do at, we are going to create like we are going to build a prototype that is a visual representation of our final solution. So this experimentation process, like it brings many ideas to your life, and it also helps us to be more tangible by building more prototypes. So that is what this total concept of experimentation is. So we are like, once if you start sketching something, like it always helps us to visually think more than writing loads and loads of paper. So like visual representation has more power than content writing. So always it's better to represent our ideas, our solutions, or like whatever content we want in a visual format. So like so far if you have observed also for the past 2 days, we are also having more images than more content. So we want you guys, like all the educators, to think, and you all the educators to process something than sitting and reading what we have written in the PPT. So that is what our main motive is. So experimentation process is also something same what I'm trying to explain is, so it is all about how we wanted to give structure. It's like we say, no, like we are just sculpting something of clay or stone. So that is what is about experimentation is. Like if you are giving a full stone, so the sculptor will start sculpting and he'll bring out like a statue, a wonderful statue. So we are in that stage. We just finalize a problem. We are just stepping on to the final stage of the design thinking process. That is like we are just giving it an life by drawing something, adding some elements, objects, subjects, things, whatever we wish to add and convey our idea. So this is what experimentation is about. So we have a small video for experimentation. So let's have a quickly run through the video and we'll further proceed.
The fourth phase in the design thinking process is prototype. And that is where we make some form of what it is that we're trying to put out for our users, humans, clients, customers. So it's basically a mock-up of what it is that we want to make. And in prototyping, the reason that we're doing this is we want to explore to make sure that the problem we have identified, the problem we have ideated on, and the problem that we have tried to solve with our prototype is actually the right problem. So in creating a physical mock-up, a wireframe, low fidelity mock-up, a paper prototype, a book dummy, whatever it is that we're designing, we want to explore how this thing is working or not working. We want to inspire our users or our colleagues and collaborators by putting something in their hands. So you've often seen these like cardboard mock-ups from the first mouse, the first computer mouse that was ever created. We want to inspire people to find out and collect more data about what is working and what is not working. And a prototype, in whatever form it takes, is a chance to have a conversation, to talk about what this thing is and if it's meeting the needs and creating the feelings in the humans that we are designing for. So some of the things that we need to keep in mind and embrace in this phase of the process is, one, failure. There are going to be things that don't work. There are going to be things that we need to just trash completely. And we need to be comfortable with that, because the more we can release and let go and move on to a new idea or a new design, the faster, the better the product will be in the end. Iteration. It's multiple attempts. There's no such thing as one of something. We're always producing many versions, many variations, and we call that iteration. That is part of this process. And then the third thing that we want to keep in mind is what we learn from the prototype may mean that we need to revisit empathy, define, ideate. We may need to revisit some of the previous phases. So we want to keep those things in mind. Now, some of the forms that prototypes can take, and depending on whether we're designing for mobile applications,
So yes, moving on with a quick explanation to the video, I guess the video is explained somewhat. I try to bring out it. So the three main things which they said was explore, inspire, and converse. Explore is that we're supposed to explore the ideas, like it is more or less related to brainstorming. So like your prototype is not gonna come as such. You are supposed to work on it. So here also you're just doing a brainstorming on how to represent your idea, how you're going to visually represent your idea, and then you're going to inspire. So in this process of inspiring, you are supposed to inspire the viewers. So the main concern, like we are doing this visual representation, is to inspire the person for whom we are designing for. So here, like our concept is redesigning a classroom. So obviously you're gonna inspire our students, our teachers, the students. Like there are various ages of students, like even college students, like some teachers who go to teacher train, like everybody is students. So we are our main motive is to inspire students with our prototypes, and then converse. So when we start getting feedbacks, so that's when we realize our mistakes, that's when we just realize our flaws. So we are just getting the points, and we are just start reworking on that process. So that is what iteration, so which we discussed yesterday. So it is all about revisiting the phases. So your process doesn't end with an experimentation. So if you commit any mistakes apart from these things, you're gonna go recheck on discover, ideation, or interpretation phases to just rectify a mistake and build up a new prototype. It is all about revisiting and all about recorrecting things and rectifying things for the better outcomes. So that is what experimentation is about. So talking about prototypes, there are many kinds of prototypes. So it may be, as we saw in the video, it may be wireframes, or it may be like a booklets, or it may be like a bulletin points. Like it may be a visual chart of like with an images explaining the content what we try to be. So it is all our wish, like how we are supposed to bring out what we want. So that is talking about the prototype. And moving on to it, is all about experimenting it in the reality. So bringing out our prototype and just sharing it with others. So now if you're just considering our event, so our main motive is for we want something to help the students to figure out. So obviously what we're going to build, like our prototype is going to be showcased to the students. So when we are doing this process, obviously we are going to collect the feedback, that is converse. We're just going to connect with students, and we're just going to get the feedback of what we want to, and like what they're up to and what they understood of this prototype. So that is what our main motive is. So that is how we are just going to do a reality check. It's not only the students, we are going to share it in the social platform, all the possible social platforms, like to all the persons, and we're just getting up the feedbacks. That is what iteration is about. So when we just get different types of feedbacks and different kinds of negative comments and positive comments, firstly we are supposed to embrace every comments. So it may be positive or negative, we are supposed to go through it, because positives might help us to stay happy, but negatives will always help us to grow better. So that is what the power of negative comment is. So people might say many things about our negative comments, many false accusations might happen of whatever we decided, but we should be able to define, say strong, and we should be able to define a problem. This is what I want, and this is what I'm trying to achieve. So that is what. So so this is what is the entire process of experimentation is. So with this, we are just coming to end of the experimentation step. So we'll quickly move on to the last phase of the design thinking process, evolution. So over to Namrita.
Just a second.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry, my net. There's a network issue here, so that's why the slide is playing, I guess, wrongly. So moving to the evolution phase, it is the last stage where there is no need for it to happen during the process or during the day or the year which you have currently solved the problem. So coming to this, it is actually the development of your concept over time. So it may involve planning the next steps or communicating the idea to people who can actually help you realize it. And it also involves documenting. So documentation, when it comes to documentation, it plays the most important role in all the 5 phases of design thinking. So let me give an example. So we'll be designing a solution for our problem in the upcoming 3 days, and that solution can be improvised or developed by someone else in the near future, or it may also be developed by us in the same year or even after 2 years. Improvisation. So that's where evolution comes into. So second. Moving forward, evolution is all about moving forward. So there are 2 steps here. So the one is track learnings. Let it be success or the documentation, as I had said before, and planning the next steps or the stages or the phases which we are going to face. So this will actually help us build a community, whether this or after this year or the day on which you frame a solution, or after 2 years, let it be after many and so many years. We'll definitely will be improvising or developing the solution. It is not it not only depends on the factors and other reasons. What I'm exactly trying to tell here is change often happens over time. And even if it is a subtle sign of progress or whatever it is, signs of changes are more important. So this sums up. And so any questions?
Okay, so Namrata, can you just give an overview of today?
Yes, Akka. So today what we saw was, just a minute. So we talked about the discovery phase. So where the discovery plays an important role, where we define the problem. And when it comes to the interpretation phase, we are representing the problem, whatever we found, and we are ending it with how might we as a statement. And coming to the ideation phase, as Ashwin had told before, we are generating various ideas. Let it be a divergent one or a convergent one. So the next stage is the experimentation. So this is where the question comes: how we are going to represent the solution, and finally the evolution. It may be the development or the improvisation of our solution in the same exact time, or even after 2 or 3 years. So that sums up today's session.